Welcome on in to another fun and action-packed live edition of the Between the Hash Marks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, and the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone, Mike Tanier, who I hear had to put on his plumber belt this morning. What happened at Two Deep Zone headquarters this morning? I saw the blue sky texts. You sent me in the outline that you're dealing with a catastrophe. What is going on over there?
If I had to put my plumber belt on, this would be Atlantis right now. You would be speaking to Aquaman. There is no plumber belt. I had to take off my idiot hat is what happened. So you're going to hear some stories. My wife might hear some stories about how I almost flooded the kitchen and almost caused probably 5 figures worth of property damage. I was defrosting some chicken, Matt. I was just defrosting chicken thighs. Like a package of chicken thighs with a little bag around it. And it's like, oh, it's not 100% defrosted. I want to brown it and then stick it in the crock pot with some sauce. I'll put it in the sink. I'll put the water on a real light level. Come back here and get a little writing done. I'm working on the mailbag. And I kind of put it like over the drain. It was like over the drain. And the plastic bag on it kind of flopped down so that it kind of created a seal on the drain. So like the little drip of the water to defrost it was slowly accumulating. And as fate would have it, as I got to a natural stopping point and was like, well, I think that chicken's thawed now. Let me go start the Dutch oven and grill it up. And when I got into it, if this is the lid of the sink, the water was like here and bobbing. So like you are seconds away from it overflowing onto the floor, getting on the floor, seeping everywhere. You gotta get down there with a mop, possibly getting, like buckling, things like that. Absolute crisis averted by seconds.
You were almost a real-life Wet Bandits from Home Alone. You almost Wet Bandited your own household, thawing out chicken because you wanted to go right rather than take the laptop into the kitchen to monitor the water. What are we doing over here?
It's a desktop. I can't just take it places. It's an old school desktop, first of all. And second of all I would have needed to do is not notice what I was doing and be like working on like the air fryer simultaneously. Maybe blow drying my hair as I walked in and nice wet feet. Oh yeah, I could have absolutely gone totally Joe Pesci on my own ass.
Well, I'm glad that the basement did not flood. I'm glad that the floors did not rot. The chicken is probably still edible, so it's a hat trick all around.
It was floating chicken. It was floating. It was like sea chicken. It was like chicken of the sea. It was tuna. It was chicken. Okay, but it was fine because it was in the package. It's not like it was waterlogged. I'm not going to serve my family waterlogged chicken. It's fine. All the water is turned off. And it's sitting in the crock pot right now where nothing can go wrong.
Well, let's not speak too soon. God only knows what's going to happen to a circuit breaker shorts, or God forbid the crock pot dies midway through. Don't jinx it. Nothing can go wrong in the universe after the morning that you had. But if you enjoy that kind of firebrand storytelling, if you enjoy the dad jokes, if you enjoy the analytics deep dives that Mike puts into the walkthroughs and the mailbags and the features, be sure you subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. There's going to be a direct link to it if you're watching this or listening to it on YouTube. In the description on YouTube, how to subscribe to the Two Deep Zone. Follow him on Blue Sky. If you enjoy my insider reporting, the analysis, the features, subscribe to Between the Hash Marks on Substack. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Leave us those 5-star ratings and reviews. We'd love to see more 5-star reviews come in. We read them each week on the show. They really do help grow the show, help people find us. You can check us out on YouTube at Matt Lombardo 975. I think that covers the housekeeping, Mike, and quite a week for the housekeeping based on what almost happened at your house.
Yeah, I'm using the rice maker later too. So again, there's only so much can go wrong with a rice maker. I'm sure everything will be fine. Everything's fine, folks. Everything's fine. The Eagles won. That's fine. We did a funeral for them last week, and then they won because I think maybe we should do another funeral for them. We can like catapult them into the Super Bowl with our own hot takes, our own old takes exposed.
I did want to bring up the funeral, though, because I still feel confident in the funeral, but I wanted to, before we got into the topics on the outline, I wanted to just kind of stop by the Kansas City Chiefs grave because It's over. It is over and done, in my opinion, because when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs' future, and you talk about Travis Kelce about to be a free agent, you look at their cap situation, which is not great going into next year. You look at Patrick Mahomes, September, maybe a return date potentially, probably later than that with the ACL. Um, it wasn't just the end of a season and missing the playoffs. It feels like there needs to be transformational change in Kansas City, and it felt like the closing of the book and the end of the dynasty.
It felt like it, but it feeling like that doesn't necessarily make it true. What does that kind of institutional change, what does that change look like to you?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's going to have to be restructuring the Chris Jones contract, because if you
Mhm.
look at his cap number going into the offseason, you're going to have to need to move money around. You're probably
Right.
going to need to move some money around on the Patrick Mahomes deal,
Well,
to
that's,
free
yeah.
up some cap space. That's probably a given, right? But to me, it comes down to you need to get two tackles. You need two offensive tackles because it just hasn't worked along that offensive line. And I
Mhm.
think they need to, like we talked about last week, you called it normal ball. I call it running the football. They need to find a running game that they haven't had in Kansas City. You
Right.
thought that they were going to get that with some Pacheco sprinkled in there. I think they need to make an actual commitment, like the Packers did with Josh Jacobs, like the Eagles did with Saquon, like the Bears did with DeAndre Swift, and then drafting Kyle Monangai this year. They need to find a way to play complementary offensive football and not just relying on the Mahomes magic and the highlights and what he did Sunday before the injury, which was make 4 or 5 of those holy shit throws. Where did those come from? How did they happen? That
Mhm.
powered a lot of that dynasty. They need to find a way to actually play the Mike Tanya termed normal ball with better personnel.
Normal ball. Now, I think they have one of the tackles he's hurt. It's Josh Simmons.
Yeah.
But you need the other one. No more Jawan Taylor. No more whoever's backing up Jawan Taylor. They had a guy out there I'd never heard of, did not know existed at right tackle because the Moore was getting hurt during that game. But yeah, something that's normalcy. And we talked about last week. This doesn't mean going out and getting Jeremiah Love or something like that
No.
necessarily. It's just making some kind of commitment to being for real in terms of, yeah, you need some real running backs. You need a philosophy where it's not a waste pitch. I think they only average against the Chargers 1.9 yards per carry. Part of that's Pacheco, part of that's Hunt not being anything special, part of this the offensive line being hurt. But it's a philosophical element. And those are the things that have to change. I think we all anticipate Kelsey's going to move on anyway. But that's it. So funeral for 2025. 2026 looks doubtful. They have to have a plan that is like longitudinal. This is for the first time they're not in win, 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 win now mode. I don't think even in 2026. It's like, what's our sustainability mode? And we're going to find out what that looks like.
Yep. And for the first time in a long time, Patrick Mahomes is not in the MVP conversation.
Nope.
For the first time since 2014, the Kansas City Chiefs are not a part of the NFL playoff picture or conversation. So it reshapes both of those races significantly. The MVP award and the AFC playoff picture, opening the door for a lot of bridesmaids about to potentially become brides. It becomes a much more parity driven rush to the finish in the AFC. And I think that the MVP race, it just looks and feels a lot different this year than it has in years past. Does it not?
It's so different because not only is there no Mahomes, but there's no Lamar Jackson. And he's been in it for the last couple of years. And then when he wasn't in it, it was because of injuries. And so, and then you go back far enough with Lamar not in it, Tom Brady was in it,
Yeah.
or Aaron Rodgers was in it.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning, well, you go back really far, you get Peyton Manning. But even like 2021, 2022, Tom Brady would still be in the conversation. Aaron Rodgers won it one of those years. He's not obviously seriously in it. I'm trying to see if he's even got a prop. I don't even see him in the props right now. I'm going to give you the numbers right now.
Yeah.
And it's Matthew Stafford minus 300, Drake May plus 425, Josh Allen plus 550. Everything after that is getting silly. Is the race over? Did Matthew Stafford win?
Yeah, I spoke to a half dozen voters over the past 2 weeks or so just to get their feel on the race, because it was kind of the idea came to me. I was on Threads and somebody posted a question about, when you look at the MVP race, is it always the quarterback? Is it the best stats? Is it the guy on the best team? Does Myles Garrett have a chance? And I was like, oh, that's a fascinating conversation. Let me talk to the people who the votes, who cast the
Yeah.
ballots to decide it. And
Actually have the MVP conversation.
yes,
Like with the people who actually decide, not like, oh, we're sitting
yes.
around. Yes.
And not sitting around on beers, not,
Yeah.
BSing on social media. Go to the voters. And to answer your question, I don't know that it's over, but it is close to being a lock, I think, that Matthew Stafford wins this. The voters that I spoke to, three of them voting for Matthew Stafford. One of them actually is committing to voting for Myles Garrett. We'll get to the quote there
Yeah. Yeah.
from that voter. Drake May receiving some consideration.
Mhm.
Josh Allen considering getting some consideration. And one voter was, at the time of our conversation, debating between Stafford and Dak Prescott. Now, after Sunday's game, that probably changes a little bit. But when you
Mhm.
look at the Cowboys having the number one offense in the league, the numbers that Prescott is putting up there, that is the case for Dak Prescott. It's probably case closed, over and shut. Put that on a shelf. Not happening this year. But
Mhm.
the Stafford thing is fascinating to me, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, because that's a loaded situation, right? Because I
Mhm.
look at the Rams, and it's almost like, as I wrote in the story, he is conducting the Los Angeles Philharmonic at the Hollywood Bowl on a picturesque night. Sean
Yeah.
McVay, offensive
Yeah.
guru; Puka Nacua, playmaker; Devontae Adams, potential missing piece to a championship run; two really good running backs; a swarming defense that attacks the football with all kinds of talent there.
Mhm.
If you were voting, would Matthew Stafford get your vote?
He would, in part because I don't play like super credit Jenga with the awards. It's like, well, look at his supporting cast as opposed to, and then you grab, well, Justin Herbert, he doesn't, and then you get these sort of like, you get out there. It's like, who's having this level of success at this level with the team, with the statistics, et cetera. By the way, someone asked what Myles Garrett's odds were. Myles Garrett's odds were at plus 40,000. So don't, right?
Yeah.
Because really, one of the big you have a Garrett quote, but one of the big takeaways that most of the voters are saying is it's a quarterback driven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll just jump into the Myles Garrett quote here real quick.
Yeah.
This is from a voter. Said Myles Garrett, he's a great example. Let me find the right one here, because I put a couple on the sheet. It's a team game for sure. That weighs heavily in the equation for me. It can be difficult to separate what the Chiefs are without Patrick Mahomes, what the Bills are without Josh Allen. I'm
Right.
bullish on Myles Garrett because he's been so dominant, evidenced by his pursuit of the sack record. Although the Browns are headed for another losing season, his potential record-breaking individual success gives reason for pause and to consider him for bucking the usual trend of giving the award to quarterbacks. It would take something exceptional for the award to go to a non-quarterback, and Garrett has done that, unquote.
Right. And I think that's what you get. Somebody is saying, by the way, when you make comments, I think Matt can see them a little better. They're about this big on my screen at the bottom, but somebody's pointing out quarterbacks are so important now. And that's how the preponderance of the voters feel. You'll get some who say, well, since I know everyone else is voting for a quarterback, I'm making my case. By the way, the voters can now list 1 through 5.
Yes.
So some of them will put as 4 and 5, the non-quarterbacks there to represent that they receive votes. One other point, by the way, Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year is minus 10,000. So he has pretty much won. You're not getting any juice on that. He's going to be Defensive Player of the Year. For MVP, it's more of a cause celeb for one individual voter.
Another voter chimed in our conversation. You can read the story. It's up now between the hash marks on Substack. But a voter said, quote, Myles Garrett is a great example of why you can't vote for a defensive player for MVP.
Right.
Last year, he may have been the best defensive player in the league or close to it, and that defense sucked even though he played so well. This year, the defense is very good.
Yes.
Garrett is even better than last year, and the team is still 3-9 because they have no quarterback, unquote.
Yes, and a quarterback, and also know anything else on offense, more or less. And so, yeah, you're showing this is the exceptionality. Like, this is a historic defensive player run, and he can't get his team out of last place. We're not even talking about, no, they went 7-10. Doesn't that say something? It's not like the 1990 Eagles or something like that. No, it's demonstrating that his value in that respect is limited. With Stafford and then, with May, here's how I look at it right now. I think Sunday was pretty much a tilting point. May played very well.
Yeah.
But late in that game, they need plays from him. He's not getting them. Stafford is out there and they're beating the Lions. They're like crunching the Lions. As you look forward, this could be an old take exposed as of Thursday night at 11:30. But if Stafford can do anything except lay an absolute egg. Like, unless he has a 4-interception Jalen Hurts against the Chargers game.
Sam Darnold against the Rams game.
Yeah, but that's Sam Darnold. Yeah, so he's facing Sam Darnold. So Sam Darnold in this example is being played by Sam Darnold. But if Matthew Stafford goes dueling Darnold, you might have a problem. May is playing the Ravens. He could have like some blow-up game against the Ravens, but I think he would need that and the Stafford failure. After that, May is not going to be able to play anybody in the regular season that anyone's going to care about. If he goes out there and beats the other teams, it's like, yeah, we saw that all year. You're the breakout player of the year. You're next year's MVP frontrunner. You're this, you're that. It's Stafford. So I think we're going to know Thursday night at midnight, but I have a feeling that, again, it has to be that meltdown type of game by Stafford for it to really matter.
Yeah, I agree there, especially when you start talking about the fact that it's going to be a quarterback that wins this award. I guess you and I differ philosophically because I tend to part and parcel these things and look at, okay, how significant was Matthew Stafford's contribution to the wins versus how significant was Drake May's contribution versus the soft schedule to what the Patriots are becoming or what Josh Allen is doing. Take nothing away from Matthew Stafford because I think that he's having a career year. He just happens to be in the ideal situation. I think that if he was doing this in Seattle, maybe. If he were doing this with Detroit, maybe. But I just look at what McVay has built, what they went and got him with Davante Adams. I could spin a case that Davante Adams is just as valuable to that offense as what Matthew Stafford has done because he's elevated them, raises their ceiling based on what they were before his arrival.
I can't. I just can't with that argument. I can't with that argument at all. Even if you would said Puka, I might have been able to take a deep breath. But I mean, and that's one way of looking at these things. They say, well, if you look at supporting cast, et cetera, and then if you look at schedule, you come in a different direction. One other thought with that is if I'm actually voting for the award, there's a little bit of stickiness or reputation.
True.
Right. And it's like, I know that Matthew Stafford, that pick will not look stupid 10 years down the road because he's already won a Super Bowl. He's a 37-year-old veteran, et cetera. Statistically, he looks much better in terms of pure stats than May, although the rate stats look really good for May. And is there a chance that I will have wound up voting for the one-year wonder if it's May? And I wouldn't fault myself for doing that, and there are some been one-year wonders that won awards, but like I would take the conservative approach and go for the veteran player if I was filling out a ballot.
One voter said, quote, it's not the best player or the most outstanding player, it's the most valuable player. Most years is going to be a quarterback because of the outsized importance of the position. So if I'm twisting your arm right now, Mike Tan, your voter, you would be voting for Matthew Stafford?
I would be voting for Matthew Stafford. If he lays an egg on Thursday night and May has a stellar performance against the Ravens, I might reconsider. If both of them fade down the stretch and Josh Allen leads the Buffalo Bills to the divisional championship, then again, I would say, well, clearly Josh Allen did something for this team that's a mess in all these other ways, and that would be the consideration. That's it. There is no one else. If I had to fill out a top five, I would stick Myles Garrett and Puka or Jackson Smith and Jigba on there because it's like all the, Dak has had a very good year, whatever. Please miss me forever on Bo Nix. I mean, I'm looking at
Mike Parsons. Had he not gotten hurt, I think
Michael
Parsons.
Yeah,
but the problem is now you're going, now as I wrote in the story, now you're going to see Micah Parsons' value determined by how the Packers defense changes without him. And you're going to see the value in absentia. Alvaro checks in, isn't the vote due before the postseason? Yes, it's after week 18.
Yes. So you have
to be in.
Right. No playoffs involved. So you're talking about things like home field advantage, winning your division, getting those wins, obviously your statistics. And you wouldn't want it any other way because it'd be like the Super Bowl MVP 2.0 because all the halo effect about what would happen in the postseason.
And when would you even vote for it? Would you vote for it, the week after the Super Bowl? Would you vote for it Super Bowl night when you're also voting for the Super Bowl MVP? Like,
Right.
I agree that, the voting for it right now at the end of the regular season after week 18, that's the best way to do it.
That's the best way to do it. Now, most of the other ballots are boring.
Well, can I give you my vote real quick? Because I was going to give
Yeah.
you mine. I didn't
Yeah,
write
yeah,
mine
yeah,
in the
absolutely. Go
story.
ahead.
No,
Yeah, go for it.
I would go Josh Allen.
Oh,
For Josh Allen because I think that he's been more valuable to this year's Bills team than what he did last year because of what they've done over these past 3 games and what he's done over the past 3 games. Now,
right.
a lot of it is projection. Like, are they going to overtake the Patriots after keeping themselves alive on Sunday? Is he going to keep up this trend? But I
Right.
just look at what he's done in the second half of gotta have it essentially playoff games to keep the playoff hopes and the AFC East race going. The second halves in Pittsburgh, in Cincinnati, and against New England, in Buffalo against the Bengals and against New England. In those second halves, he had 385 yards, 5 touchdowns, 137 rushing yards, and 2 more scores. I think there's a world where the Bills might be 0-3 in those games if he doesn't flick that switch.
And we could do that with the Buccaneers game as well. We could go all the way back to the Ravens game in the opener. But in the Buccaneers game, I think that was a 6 total touchdown game, like 3 rush, 3 pass, something like that. But I see it. I thought you were going Drake May. I thought that's where we were heading for this. But you kind of see it where it's like they were head to head, and May's like, I'm having this phenomenal game. Like, okay, here, I'm Josh Allen. Now your move. It's like, I don't have another move. It's like, well,
my move is blocking for Travion Henderson downfield, which is tremendous.
Yes.
And that's going to earn Drake May so much street cred in that locker room and on that offense and among his teammates. But they turtled up in the second half in a way that you just can't when you're trying to put on the hats and T-shirts against the 5-time division champions in your own building. You have to close. Josh Allen closed in what was essentially a playoff game, the 3rd in a row. And to me, it's hard to overlook what he's doing right now. If he keeps that up, the Stafford-Allen vote split at the end of this thing could be really fascinating.
Absolutely. And this is not taking away from May, who'll be on the short list next year. There's all these like breakout player of the year type of things that you can give him, and he would be the shoe-in for those. There is no race for defensive player of the year.
No.
Offensive player of the year is kind of boring. Listen to these odds. Jackson Smith and Jigba minus 475. Okay. Jonathan Taylor plus 650. I think his last chance would have been single-handedly dragging the Colts to victory. He played well. He played well for Rivers, but he would have needed like the 175-yard game there. McCaffrey plus 1,500. Puka plus 1,500. A victim of what you're saying. Well, Devontae Adams, blah, 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 blah. And Jahmyr Gibbs plus 1,500. I mean, we can talk about it, but it sounds like JSN. Would you play any of those other numbers?
No, the only one that I would consider is maybe Jahmyr Gibbs if they get in. If they come all the way.
But remember, yeah, they have to put. You mean if they work their way up and in? Yeah,
yes. If they work their way all the way back, and he doesn't have another game like he had against the Rams, and he has the kind of game that he had against the Giants, where in overtime he just decided, you know what, screw this, I'm going to go win it myself. Or he has the kind of like 5 touchdown outburst or whatever it was against the Commanders. If he has those kind of games down the stretch, I think Gibbs will be the guy. But it feels like defensive player of the year is locked in. Myles Garrett, no competition, and I don't know that I would. Other than maybe Gibbs under extenuating circumstances, I don't think that anybody else deserves a vote other than JSN.
Right. Well, I mean, I would probably put JSN first, and then like it was written though, I'd probably put Taylor, Puka, McCaffrey, Gibbs. That seems reasonable.
Somehow Taylor's still leading. Jonathan Taylor's still leading the league in rushing. He's still hanging on there.
Well, and that could continue if the entire offense is Philip Rivers saying, here, take it, please. Offensive Rookie of the Year, this is a little closer. I just don't know how exciting it is. Travion Henderson plus 185. Emeka Egbuka plus 205. He was so prohibitive about 6 weeks ago. Tet McMillan plus 250. Really like him. Jackson Dart plus 550. You got any thoughts?
Travion Henderson. I mean,
Yeah.
the numbers might not match up to Saquon Barkley's rookie year, but from an impact standpoint, you look at the primetime games against the Jets when they needed big runs, delivered a couple touchdowns. You look at yesterday, Sunday against the Bills, had they won that game, I don't know that we're crediting Drake May as much as we're crediting
Yeah.
2 50+ yard touchdown runs to Trevion Henderson,
Yeah.
the big touchdown run against the Buccaneers. He's just an explosive play factory. So I think that I would go Trevion as offensive rookie of the year.
I'll stick with that. That will assuage my guilt at not voting for Drake May. Defensive rookie of the year. I mean, this isn't that exciting a list. Carson Schlesinger of the Browns, who has a phenomenal year playing behind Myles Garrett, is -210. Then you got Nick Emanuele, James Pierce, Jalen Walker. You have any thoughts here? You want to advocate for Abdul Carter? Is he awake? Is he showing up for practice these days? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not going to pick up that case. He has not
Okay.
done enough to merit a defensive rookie of the year. Honestly, and this is just full disclosure, I don't even know who I would vote for out of that
Right.
list.
Right.
Right. I mean, I thought going into the year, Jahdae Barron would have had a chance in
Yes.
Denver, but
He's
I think he's a victim of not getting that many opportunities because
right.
the front seven has been so good. So yeah, you could convince me. You could talk me into any of those defensive rookie candidates.
The reality is I wrote on him in Worry, so I studied him with some detail. Schlesinger, it's like I'm watching Browns games.
You're watching Sack Watch and Shador Watch, right?
Yeah, I'm on Garrett Watch and Shador Watch. I'm sorry. But like, I know I looked at the statistical lines and everything. Yeah, he's good. He's obviously playing well. Very briefly, comeback player of the year is a bleh. Christian McCaffrey -210. Phillip Rivers +500. Dak Prescott +700.
If they get in, like if they hang on by the skin of his teeth.
Here's the thing, and Aaron gave me a dirty look when I asked him, is he eligible? You're supposed to be coming back from an injury.
He's coming back from the couch. He's coming back from doing battle with 10 kids and a grandkid. Right? I mean,
hey, don't argue with me. Aaron gets mad because he's like, I don't want to fight your battles with the AP for you, Mike. Like, no one cares. You're the only one who's being an a-hole about this. But they came down with these crazy rules about comeback player of the year, and I don't think Phillip Rivers is eligible. But if they got in, yes.
I agree.
Yes.
If they would have won on Sunday, it's a completely different conversation. If Sam Darnold didn't get the benefit of his kicker making 6 field goals, we're having a different conversation here.
Now, to be fair, Rivers' kicker kicked 4, and they were all like 55 yards. But he's Rivers. Yeah, whatever. I think McCaffrey, I'm comfortable with McCaffrey unless something happens.
Yeah. Why not? Why
not?
Yeah, again.
He's been again, this is like his 4th one. He's like Chad Pennington Jr. He's been the Lone Ranger this year for that team, right?
Yeah. Ricky Pearsall goes out. Brandon Ayuk is a part-time player. Rotating cast of quarterbacks. Offensive linemen banged up. Oh, it's Christian McCaffrey. He just posted 212 scrimmage yards and 3 touchdowns again. Who can figure?
Right. Yeah, he was hurt last year. The rest of them were fine. Give him the award. It's great. Coach of the year. Here's where it gets wild. Vrabel +130. McDonald +450. Liam Cohen +450. Ben Johnson +650. Kyle Shanahan +750. Sean Payton +1,000. From a prognostication standpoint, if I'm telling people to wager, I would probably say go with like a Vrabel or McDonald. But if I'm
going to make easy money here, I'm going to make real easy money here when Ben Johnson's named the coach of the year. Just look at the turnaround. In DVOA last year in 2024, the Bears were -12.7, 24th in the league in DVOA. 2025 +0.1, 16th in DVOA.
Yep.
The rise in EPA, expected points added, significantly higher. Last year, they were 26th in the league at -0.8. In 2025, they're 9th in EPA. They lead the league in takeaways with 20. That's more takeaways, more than one takeaway per game. They lead the NFC North. They're probably going to win it based on Micah Parsons going down. And Chicago's the number 2 ranked rushing offense. They trail the Bills by only 6 rushing yards per game, and they're number 5 in total offense. So I look at them. I look at Ben Johnson. What Mike Vrabel did was great. He also brought in Josh McDaniels. Now here's the Lombardo narrative splitting again.
Okay,
he
right.
brought in Josh McDaniels. They have a lot of weapons, and Liam Cohen, you could probably talk me into him, but I just look at the turnaround in Chicago, the improvement in Caleb Williams throughout the course of the season, what that defense is doing. Lock it in, and I want some easy money here.
I don't do the coordinator game thing here with that, because you brought in guys. You've got friends. That's part of the deal, right? Yeah. So Ben Johnson has friends. We don't think of Dennis Allen as some great coordinator, but I got a guy who's willing to come work for me, who's got a lot of experience. That's a big deal. And everything you said with Johnson, true. Also, he had to take over the quarterback who didn't watch film, didn't know how to watch film, didn't like watching film, however you parse the Caleb Williams thing. He had to come in with this narrative nightmare situation. There was none of that around Drake May. Drake May was a hardworking young man who had no offensive line. Go get some offensive linemen for him. You had all of that. I agree. I think Ben Johnson has done the best job. And that's even factoring schedule and stuff like that. And you did the best job. You got everything right on the ship and you're in first place. So I would probably bet on Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
I might vote for Ben Johnson, but I can't help, and this was on the podcast with Shots yesterday, it should really be Sean McVay. I mean, look at that team.
I know they're the best team in football.
Look at that system.
Team. Yeah, I know.
Right. They rebuilt everything in the last couple of years. There's no Aaron Donald anymore. It's like, well, they've got Puka a couple of years ago. Oh, they got Cooper Kupp. They always seem to have the guy. The guy keeps changing. I would do not bet on this because they never pick an established coach. But I'd consider it. I'd really consider it.
And in that division too, because the Arizona Cardinals are an unserious franchise. We put them away, but you still have to go through Seattle. You still have to go through San Francisco. It's a murderer's row just beating up on each other, but nobody can land a punch on the Los Angeles Rams and on Sean McVay. So, I don't know that I would vote for McVay because it goes against what my philosophies as a voter would be. And I'm so enamored by the turnaround with Caleb Williams and in all phases of what the Bears are doing that Ben Johnson will get my vote. But McVay, this has been his best coaching job, but he's also had his best team.
Yeah, and he has the pieces and things like that. I'll say this, you were talking about schedule. I pulled up the past strength of schedule per FTN Fantasy. This is the DVOA driven. Hardest schedule this year was the Cardinals. Okay, and they fell completely apart as a result. Second hardest was the Titans. They couldn't crawl off their backs. They were always getting pounded. Number 3 was Houston. We'll probably talking about them in a little bit. And number 4 hardest schedule was the Rams. They played the 4th toughest schedule this year. Obviously, they just played the Lions. They're about to play the Seahawks. That's future, not past schedule. But yes, they've been doing this against that. That's a feather in the cap. I get not voting for him. A lot of voters feel the same way. They look at people who had to take over a mess and do it. But for your consideration.
Alvaro checks in the comments. It definitely should be Sean McVay, just like Andy Reid and Bill Belichick should have won several. And I kind of agree with that because, you look at how dominant the Patriots were, even with Tom Brady. Bill Belichick, did he win one? I don't know that he won Coach of the Year.
Gosh, I think he won 2 early in his career.
Did he win 2?
Yeah, I don't know if this would be the most. If you can vamp, I can look it up.
Yeah, and then Andy Reid is kind of in that same mold because outside of that turnaround with McNabb the first year in Philly, excellence was always the expectation, whether it was the Eagles or in Kansas City. When you talk about going to and winning Super Bowls and making deep playoff runs, that it just seems like this award, and maybe rightfully so, because we talk about, and you wrote about it in the column, the parity that dates back through the league's history of any team winning any given Sunday, the Burt Bell quote, and the fact that the talent level is so similar across the league that coaching makes the difference and philosophies make the difference. Yeah. I look at the philosophies with guys like McVay, with Liam Cohen, Dave Canales. If they, win this division, those to me are the coaching jobs that put you in the conversation for Coach of the Year. Not necessarily the turnkey of I have the best roster and I'm going to pummel teams every week to make a statement.
That's fair. And that's the way, again, a lot of the voters approach it. So that's the reality. By the way, Belichick won it 3 times. I have him winning it in 2003, 2007, and 2010. And then I think they just said, okay, we have given him the 3 awards. They do the same thing with the Oscars, folks. After a certain time, it's like, yes, we're not giving Tom Hanks any more Oscars. Andy won in 2002 with the Eagles. Oh, wow. Has Andy never won since then?
It's the factor of having the turnkey roster, having Patrick Mahomes. He probably should have won it more often,
Yeah,
right? I mean, because he's Andy
right.
Reid. But you start talking about coaches and Coach of the Year. I don't know that Coaches of the Year awards are deciding factors to go in the Hall of Fame. But if you talk to Bill Belichick and Andy Reid, they'll take the rings
Yeah, they'll
and
take, oh, yeah.
they'll take the bust and Canton over the Coach of the Year awards on the resume.
2022 Coach of the Year. Brian Dable.
Yeah.
2018 Coach of the Year. Matt Nagy. 2016 Coach of the Year. Jason Garrett. All right, I'm done.
So maybe the philosophy should change, is what you're telling me. Maybe there should be an MVP level approach to the Coach of the Year.
Maybe a little bit of stickiness, and again, I don't know if I would adhere to that if I actually had a vote. I feel like I would sit there and be like, yeah, I'll put McVay third or whatever.
So he appears in the also receiving votes category of the power poll of the award.
Gosh.
So we'll turn our attention now to the postseason, and everybody talks about the team that you don't want to face in Wild Card Weekend, the team that everybody is afraid of. You kind of flip this on its ear a little bit. I love the concept.
Yeah, well, one is we're in Philly, and again, we had the seance. What did we have? We had a eulogy. We had a wake for the Eagles.
We had an Italian wake last week for the Eagles.
We had an Italian wake for the Eagles last week, and they went and they shut the team out. So maybe we do a funeral this year. But the fact is, of course, even when we're doing the wake, the Eagles are making the playoffs. It was a wake for their Super Bowl opportunities. Yeah. But now it is one win or one Cowboys loss away from clinching the playoffs. And then, of course, that's pretty much going to be the third seed if you look how everything works out, because the mess in the NFC South, so the Eagles are probably going to be third. And then you look at that playoff game, it's like, well, here in Philadelphia, where we're based, it'd be fun to get a playoff win. So who do the Eagles want to come in? But other teams are doing the same thing.
Yes.
And I wanted to start in the AFC. We'll do like a little bit more Eagle-centric thing. But in the AFC, it's there's not a lot of wiggle room now. There's only a handful of teams that could possibly be that. So I'm just going to start throwing them out to you. Which team scares you the least? Would it be, the Buffalo Bills?
No, it would not be the Buffalo Bills, because they have Josh Allen, and they have this running back named James Cook, who just can't seem to overtake Jonathan Taylor for the rushing lead, even though he seems to be posting touchdowns and 100-yard outputs every single week. And we can all laugh at and say how maligned and how terrible the Bills' defense is. Well, you look at the pick sixes that turned the tide against Pittsburgh. You talk about Joey Bosa tipping the pass that sealed the game against the Patriots. In big moments, that Bills' defense is rising to the occasion. I want no part of that combination. The quarterback, the running game, a timely defense. I don't want to see them. If they're on the other side of the sideline, I am not thrilled.
No one wants to see the Bills. We don't need to belabor that one. So let's go to the next one. Are the Chargers the team that scares you the least?
Yes. and not just because I wrote 2,500 words on the end of Chargering before they got boat raced in Houston last week. That Jim Harbaugh was going to run the ball and they're going to play defense, and Justin Herbert turned the corner. Well, I'm not going to take anything away from Justin Herbert and what they've done. They beat the Eagles and the Chiefs in 6 days, back-to-back games. They've earned their trip to the playoffs. But I will point out that only the Raiders have allowed more sacks than the Chargers back up to the backup offensive line, who have allowed 51. They'd have to play some sort of combination early on of the Patriots, 29 sacks and 8 interceptions. The Steelers have 40 sacks and they have 10 takeaways. That's third in the NFL. And the Texans, who just might murder Justin Herbert again if they have the chance in a playoff game. So I'm not worried in the least about the Chargers in the postseason. How about you, sir?
Not worried about them. And you retired Chargering, I guess, in week 4. And I officially said we need to retire it this week. They're going to get into the playoffs by overcoming all of this. We're down to our 4th string left tackle, 3rd string right tackle, got a guard playing tackle, whatever. They've been rotating guys who are in the skill positions. You can't really name that many guys on their defense right now unless you start looking at the roster. And here they are, and they're beating these teams, and they're a better position. The Chiefs are below them. They're in a better position than teams like the Ravens. So it's an accomplishment. It's not like, oh, they're going to choke, but they're not good. They're not that good.
Right.
Right. So
They've gotten by on timely takeaways. They've gotten by on a couple big drives and big throws by Justin Herbert in big spots. I mean, the drive in overtime against the Eagles, you look at what they did there. They're just checking boxes, but I don't know that holds up when you look at the gauntlet they're going to have to face once you get into the postseason. And I don't think if they're one and done, I don't think you start pointing fingers or you talk about blowing it up. You talk about, okay, we just need to get healthy up front. Maybe get some better depth players along the offensive line. We could still maybe use another wide receiver, but we've been trying to find wide receivers for 5 years. But other than that, okay, we got in. Hey, okay. Okay, we got in with everything.
Look at this season, and then Harbaugh will be the one who frames that, the resilience, the brotherhood, the teamwork, and everybody will buy into it, and that's a trait. I think that's a positive skill that he has. I might roll my eyes, but the players won't. Okay, what about the AFC South participant? Let's assume it's not the Colts. Because again, I think we would put the Colts at the bottom of this list if they scam a win somewhere and trip into the playoffs. But what if it's either the Texans or the Chargers? I'm guessing it's the Chargers. Do they scare you less than the Chargers? The Jaguars. The Jaguars or the Texans?
Yeah, I would be terrified of the Texans. I want no part of that. I want no part of Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I want no part of that secondary. I want no part of C.J. Stroud, who's starting to figure it out and having to deal with Nico Collins. They hung a 40 burger on the Cardinals and barely broke a sweat. At one point, it became a real conversation of, are they going to allow more yards to the Cardinals than points that they score? And in the first quarter, it was like
-7 yards,
20 to -7.
Yes.
So they would they would terrify me. And the Jaguars, you seem to have been more deep in the weeds on the Jaguars. It feels like they've started to kind of figure out how to prop up Trevor Lawrence. The Jets were the get-right game of get-right games, but they're not screwing up. They're not shooting themselves in the foot anymore.
That's the thing. And they've had a couple of these games in a row, the Riley Leonard-led Colts, and then the Brady Cook-led Jets. I mean, so you're really in silly time here. The penalties have dissipated. They were a huge problem. The Brian Thomas drops in chaos. He seems to have gotten a little more control over himself. Lawrence is he's not manufacturing these wins. He's sitting on these wins. He's sitting on these leads. The defensive front is playing very well. There's a lot there. Texans scare me, right? It's I don't want to face the Texans, a wild card going in. The Jaguars, I would probably still say, please give me the Chargers, because I know how I can attack that offensive line, force pressures. Herbert will make his 2 big throws, but then he'll be on the run the rest of the game. Don't do anything stupid on your side of the ball. You win. The Jaguars might have a lot more upside than I thought. One more thought. You realize, of course, that the Texans are playing Phillip Rivers on Sunday.
Oof.
I want that game blocked on my television. That's I used to go
video. It's stuff porn is what it is.
Right. It's like they used to. I'd flip the channels and on the learning channel they used to have eye surgery. And and here we're going to perform freaking eye surgery and it's educational. It's you weirdos. No one wants to see that. That's terrible. Okay. And
they might sack him 8 times. We might be 8 or 9 sack. Yeah. It could be bad.
Right. And we always watch football saying, well, obviously there could be a serious injury or something. It's a 44-year-old grandfather who hasn't been getting himself in football shape. I don't want to see that. Anyway, the Texans are too scary. So we're going to go with Chargers, least scary team in the AFC.
Yes.
They're probably the Jaguars second. And then,
yes.
Right, whatever. And we're going to assume the Ravens. If the Ravens get into the conversation, I don't think they will, though.
I don't know that I'm that worried about I know they're going to win their division, but I'm not sure that I'm that worried about Pittsburgh either.
No.
because they can run a goal line toss to Jonnu Smith and he'll run over you. But it takes a fourth down, pathetic tush push attempt to get in at the end of the half against the Dolphins, 3 tries from the half-yard line. Like, what are we talking about here? And you're winning by hook or by crook with Aaron Rodgers making 1 or 2 fluky
Yep.
throws where you threaded the needle, a safety recovered and nearly made a nice play. Instead, DK Metcalf brings it in. Like, it just feels like smoke and mirrors. Mike Tomlin magic shows are happening in Pittsburgh more than anything sustainable. I don't think you wrote the great breakdown on the Steelers not finishing below 500 for the past like 12 years or whatever it's been, and
Yeah.
how that's kind of fugazi with the team that they played down the stretch, or that they
Right.
backed into not finishing below 500. There was a great story last week on Two Deep Zone. But I would, if Mike Tomlin and Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers are coming to town, I think I like my chances.
Yeah, I don't want to see Philip Rivers get sacked by the Texans 10 times, but Aaron Rodgers get sacked by the Texans 10 times. That could be entertaining. That could be fun. That could be fun. All right, let's go to the NFC. Well, we can put on our Eagle fan hat a little bit here. Eagles, local homer hat a little bit. And does this team scare you? Green Bay Packers.
Not particularly. After what happened with Micah Parsons going down, I think that they would have been one of those teams that I would want no part of with that defense playing the way it was even in the first half against Denver. But if you'll oblige me for a second, this is from PFF, 21.4% of their snaps is when they've blitzed this season with Jeff Halfley. 21.4, which is 4th lowest in the league. In Week 15, they blitzed 32.3% of the snaps. Obviously, that's an overcorrection with Parsons going down, and for good reason. Rashawn Gary has a pass rush rate below 10, pass rush win rate. They're going to need to blitz. They're going to have to blitz. And if they wind up playing a team like the Rams, well, not great. Not great for Jeff Halfley's troops. Next-gen stats, Stafford completed 15 of 19 passes against the blitz for 202 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Lions on Sunday. And get this, the next-gen stats pointing it out. No quarterback has more touchdowns against the blitz since 2018 than Matthew Stafford's 27. So they're probably going to get the 1 seed, so they're not going to have to worry about facing the Packers on Wild Card Weekend. But if the Packers somehow sneak through and they line up against the Rams at some point, hey, Jeff, don't blitz. Don't blitz. Let him throw. Play cover 3. Play cover 6. Whatever you need to do, don't blitz.
He has no choice. He has no choice. Devontae Wyatt's also out. That was their top run defender, and that was the top interior pass rusher. So you're talking about Rashawn Gary, and then you're talking about Kingsley Ekebere and all these other guys that, like, your brain would never even go to these names of guys. And Lucas Van Ness, who's been in and out of lineup with injuries, and none of them besides Gary have any pass rush juice, and you just named it. Right, not great. And then you have this offense, and I'm not going to rip Jordan Love or anything like that. But man, they get to the 20 and their brains switch off.
Well, for Tucker Kraft, he hasn't been there for 6 weeks.
Yeah,
their offense was always, hey, let's throw it to Tucker Kraft, and he's going to get us 17 yards after the catch minimum, right? And then after that big play, because safeties have to respect Tucker Kraft, and I got to dedicate a linebacker to Tucker Kraft, hey, I can hand it to Josh Jacobs, and he's going to run for 7 yards because of how things have opened up. You take Kraft out of the equation. Matthew Golden, nice piece. He's a year away, in my opinion, from being a playmaker. Christian Watson banged up now. Just too many injuries, too many philosophical concerns. I don't think their brand of football, the way they're going to have to play it, travels into January.
Injuries in the offensive line, too, where these things start to mount, and you say, well, it's Micah. Yeah, it's Micah. It's I'm drawing a blank on the veteran offensive lineman. I'm sorry, he played center this year.
It's okay.
Yeah. Watson's in and out. Kraft, Wyatt. This is all. It's going to come to me now, like 5 minutes from now.
They're just too banged up. Moral of the story: too banged up.
They're too banged up here. So we're going to say the Packers. We're putting them at the least scary list, but let's put in the Seattle Seahawks and see how they match up.
I can't say that they are the least scary, but I'm only moderately more scared and worried about the Seahawks than I am about the Packers because I'm not so sure that they can insulate themselves from postseason Sam Darnold. I
Right.
just don't know that they can do it because dating back to losing to the Rams on November 16th, Sam Darnold has 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions over those 3 games, including 0 touchdowns and 4 interceptions
Wow.
against the Rams. And
Mhm.
when he was a member of the Vikings last year against the Rams, they sacked him 9 times in that playoff game. He had 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Love what Mike McDonald is building. All in on the defense. Love what they're doing up front. I think that Jackson Smith-Njigba is probably going to run away with Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the salve for what can fix Sam Darnold. Boy, I just would not trust Sam in the
Yeah.
postseason if I were them.
By the way, it was Elgton Jenkins that I was trying to think of. He's been played left tackle for years, guard for years. Been out since the Eagles game. His backup is Sean Ryan, who's a decent ball player, but it's not the same. Anyway, going back to what we were saying, that was going to drive me nuts. Darnold. We're not afraid of this. No one's afraid of the Seahawks because of Darnold. No one, I think, would be afraid of the Seahawks as the wild card because you're not 12th manning it. There's a little bit of that.
Right.
I'll point
You
out
don't have
what
to travel all the way up there. It's not like a
yeah.
miserable travel experience for the Buccaneers going up to Seattle. Like the
Right.
longest possible trip.
Right, longest possible trip into a hostile environment. I'll point out what Aaron Schatz posted earlier today on all the socials. Seahawks defense right now is like one of the top 10 ever even measured by DVOA. So that's the other factor. If you saw the Colts game, you saw Sam Darnold. It was like a turtle on his back when they were inside their own 20. Where it's like, dude, you're facing a 44-year-old. If you can get a couple first downs and get them pinned, then you're going to win this game very easily. Instead, you're the one who's pinned, and that team can't get out of it. That's on Darnold. I think it's a little bit on Kubiak. I think it's a little bit on their running game as well because they couldn't get anything going there. That's the way it's been for the last 3 weeks for the Seahawks, except that they were playing these goofy opponents where it's 6-3 at halftime. What's going on? And then the defense and special teams made plays, and they ran away from their previous opponent. So,
or the game against the Cardinals where the defense scored like 3 touchdowns in the first 5 minutes of the game. You remember that?
Right. Yeah, I want to pull it up real quickly because now my memory is fading on me.
DeMarcus Lawrence with the strip sack fumble return for a touchdown. I think he had an interception in that first half. I think there was a pick 6 in that game. They had the most ridiculous pick 6 in NFL history off J.J. McCarthy, who played well against the Cowboys on Sunday night. Give J.J. McCarthy some flowers, but the Seahawks forced him into an NFL blooper reel for all of their times.
Right.
So yeah, if there's a stabilizing force in Seattle, I think it's that defense.
Right, the Vikings game, it's like the opponent is going 3 and out or turning the ball over every time. And so you eventually get 26 points out of that. Like, well, yeah, you're on the field the entire time. Same thing happened against the Falcons. You're right, that Cardinals game. The Cardinals game, by the way, was a prime backdoor Brissett game. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know this particular meme, the Cardinals go down 31-0 every week, and then Jacoby Brissett goes to make some money because he knows that there's some of that New York Jets bridge quarterback money out there, and throws 2 or 3 touchdown passes, all of them to Trey McBride late in the game. So if you like playing second half overs and things like that, watch out for those Cardinals. Total side topic, getting back on topic. So if Parsons were around, we'd probably say Seahawks right now are least scary, but without Parsons, Packers remain most scary.
Yeah, and we're going to find out a lot. I mean, I'm not going to give away my circlet game, but I kind of am. We're going to find out a lot about what that defense is going to be and have to be without Parsons. With him not there, I'm less worried about Green Bay for everybody on that side of the bracket.
Anyone on that side of the bracket. Again, now let's throw the 49ers in there.
Oh, boy. If Christian McCaffrey is fully healthy, I worry about them because I've seen what they've done in the early rounds of the playoffs. I've seen him put a team on his back. It just seems like, Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey just will them to victory in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So I'd be more worried about San Francisco than I would be about the Packers. How about you?
Right. I'm more. Yeah, I would agree. I'm more worried about San Francisco than the Packers. I don't know. I don't have to line up the Packers with the Niners with the Seahawks. It's McCaffrey. Kittle's been playing outstanding.
Yeah.
You mentioned Pearsall earlier. He's come up and kind of done the things they've needed him to do. Purdy has played very well. We always have to discount Purdy as somebody who doesn't belong in any category about anything else like that. He was out there, pumping his fist, doing all kind of wacky stuff in this game. Granted, against the Titans. Yeah, I'm looking the last 4 weeks. The Cardinals, a backdoor Brissett special.
Yes.
The Panthers, they caught the Panthers having one of their reality checks, which happen every other week. Then they have 4 fourth down conversions and win the following week. The Browns in the Shadorning, and the Titans. And yet, you're right. We've seen McCaffrey take over these games. We've seen Shanahan manufacture these games. And there's enough. There are enough guys there to make them a more, I guess, worrisome team than the current Packers.
Yeah, I think so. I just think they're more balanced. I think that the scheme works, and
Yep.
they're going to start to get a little bit healthier. Pearsall is going to get further away from that injury. Juwan Jennings is starting to heat up. He had a really nice game Sunday afternoon as well. So I think if we're putting them alongside the Packers, I worry about the Niners a little bit more.
Absolutely. I want to give you one crazy Niner stat here.
Okay.
Because I knew I had one and I lost it and I just got it back. They do a thing called hidden special teams, which is basically special teams luck, and Aaron Schatz, DVOA, they've been doing it for a while, FTN Fantasy. The 49ers opponents are 0 of 5 on 50-plus yard field goals and 4 of 8 on 40 to 49-yard field goals. The 49ers have had the most amazing field goal luck in the league in several years. I'm just throwing that number out there.
In a year where kickers outside of Brandon Aubrey on Sunday night having some sort of brain leg cramp combination in Arlington, a year where kickers have been more automatic than ever from 40 plus and 50 plus. They just seem to run into these situations where the kickers don't live up to the reputations that are being set this year.
Right, and I think that might be some kind of kismet, because the 49ers' own kickers have been a mess for years and have missed every clutch kick they could, and now it's going the other way. I don't think that changes anything. It would be something to look for if they are on the road in Philadelphia and it's cold, Chicago in the cold, something that you might say, hey, this luck could turn around. Okay, or if they're in a dome stadium, a nice stadium, and the opposing kicker's not going to miss for you guys.
Does the conversation change about the Packers if they somehow win the division? If they go out and they catch Caleb at the right time, coming off a really good game against the Browns, and they upset them on Saturday,
right.
Does the conversation change if you have to go into Lambeau? Because I know that Micah Parsons was there for that game against Philly, but it just seems like that offense was ground to a stop because of the cold and the wind, and it's going to be colder and windier, and there's the mystique of Lambeau. Does it change at all your perception of the Packers if they win the division and a wild card team has to go there? Can they win a wild card game?
I feel like it has to, because in that scenario, they got a big win on Saturday night against a team that runs the ball exceptionally well, so they had to figure out something defensively. In that scenario, they beat the Ravens. Okay, which is a tough out by any standard. So in the scenario described, something has changed to get those wins. Oh my gosh, they found the solution for Tucker Kraft has gone, but Luke Musgrave has suddenly figured out what he's doing. Or Lucas Van Ness has stepped up. I don't know what it is.
But it's something.
That changes. I guess it's they won the division because 3 offensive linemen got hurt in the first quarter for the Bears, or, if it's one of those stories, then it's a different thing. But they would have to show something appreciably different than what we see now for that to play out. So, it would probably be a different situation.
Yeah, because you're talking about, in that case, you're talking about a team like Seattle or San Francisco or Detroit or the Bears having to go in there for a playoff game.
Right. And that would necessarily change things. But based on the information we have now, let's see what they look like. Yeah, let's see what they look like on Saturday night. What about the Lions? The Lions still scare me. You don't want to...
What was that on Sunday, though? Because I watched that game, and it was the game that was on the main TV, and I heard Tom Brady make the piss missile comment on the throw. I saw what Stafford and those guys did, but they couldn't get the running game going whatsoever. Jamison Williams was a novelty act rather than a second fiddle complementary force to Amon-Ra St. Brown, who still had a great game
in the second half. in the second half.
Yeah.
Williams had the big play in the first half, but
Yeah, but it just seems like the Rams just took away everything that they do well. And if the Rams can do that, why can't Philly? Why can't Tampa? Why can't the Bears, who seem to have figured out how to play defense?
see, that's the thing though. When I look at like the wild card teams, it's like the fear of what they can really do when they're hoops together.
Yeah.
And with the Lions, it's like, well, is there any reason to think that that's not the team that's going to go and come after you and beat you with Gibbs, Williams, Amon-Ra, Hutchinson? It's like, no, they're all still there. They can all have that moment. We are Sparta speech by Dan Campbell, and they come roaring out of there. As opposed to, well, the Packers are at their peak right now. I don't look at the Packers at like their peak performance without Micah and say, oh my gosh, this is a team that could beat anyone anytime. The Lions still give you a little bit of that. You're right. But remember, they were up by 10 points in that game.
Yeah.
And then it's like, we figured out how to pressure Goff, and we know what happens when we pressure Goff. And we realize they're out of dudes in the secondary. They're just out of dudes in the secondary. So
for the second year in a row. Yeah.
Yeah. For the second year in a row, we ran out of dudes in the secondary, and there's only one guy we got to block, and it's Hutchinson for the second year in a row, although he was hurt down the stretch last year. So and we're the Rams, and we can solve these problems, and that's kind of what happens. I still think the Lions coming in, roaring in as a wild card would be scarier than the Packers.
Yeah, I don't know, because I watched that game in Philly, outside, in the cold, in the wind. Dan Campbell decides, hey, I'm going to Dan Campbell it 5 times on 4th down and go 0 for 5. It just seems like you get them out of their environment. It seems like the chances of them going boom go down.
Right. That's the thing, though. You needed the 0 for 5. Eagles need the 0 for 5 to win. It's almost like the die rolls where it's like, okay, the die rolls, and there was a pass interference penalty, and there was all these other things where the Eagles kind of needed the boost on that. So you're right about getting them out of their element, though. They are kind of domish.
Which is bizarre based on their temperament of running the football as well as they do, but they are domish. They're built for a dome, and even inside, Jaden Daniels and the Commanders went in and punched them in the mouth at home last year. So I'm not going to say that they have some Chargers in them in the postseason, but I'm not going to not say it either.
Right, there are downsides. So you're going to say they're the least scary team?
No, I'm still Packers. Not scared at all. No fear whatsoever.
Right.
And then after that, maybe San Francisco a little less scary, and then Detroit, then the Lions,
and then Detroit, and put Seattle with that tough defense at the end of the list. I don't even know if anyone else, except for somebody losing the division. I guess the Cowboys are still technically. Technically,
they have to win out, and the Eagles have to lose out. That's the scenario for the Cowboys to make it back to the postseason.
Which is like falling asleep and dreaming of like Freddy Krueger and Jason like chasing you at this point in terms of that even being a thing. The actual odds, according to Football Outsiders analysis, 0.8% chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah, not happening.
Right. So the T-shirts could be given out on Saturday afternoon in Philly. Speaking of this upcoming week, what's your circlet situation?
My circlet game is going to be Bears-Packers, the Saturday night nightcap. And it's going to take some convincing for the wife to let me watch that game, because it's Saturday night, like the week before Christmas and whatnot, and probably going to want to watch some sort of Christmas movie. But I'm circling it. I'm going to find a way to watch it because, again, I want more Bears validation. I want more Bears validation even after beating the Browns in that defense. I want to see Caleb Williams do it again. I want to see how Jeff Hafley schemes up not having Micah Parsons. I want to see if people in the NFC should be scared at all of Green Bay after we kind of poo-poo them here and, kind of earmark ourselves for cold takes exposed at some point. But that's going to be my circle game, Bears-Packers, Saturday night. How about you?
Yeah, it'd be like the family Christmas movie, right? But you'd be watching Polar Express.
Yeah, Polar Express. Yep.
Right. It's very different. See, the great thing about that Saturday night game is I don't write on Sunday morning. I never write on Sunday morning. I will not be writing a Sunday morning wrap up, which means I can just have a couple cocktails and watch that one and hopefully be in like a reasonable mood. It's always in a better mood if the Eagles win in the early game. We'll see how that goes. You took that one. First inclination is go Thursday night Rams Seahawks. That's obvious. Everybody's got to circle it for that. I'll just leave that one aside. Sunday at 1:00, the Buccaneers play the Panthers, and something's got to give.
Somebody has to win it.
Someone's got to win it. Someone's got. They can tie. Throwing that out there, they can tie.
I'm going to root for the chaos tie because I have no idea what that means in the NFC South, and it just seems so fitting because nobody wants to win that division. Like, I'm watching the game last Thursday night, and I'm just going to put the laptop up here. I'm watching the game Thursday night, and a scout texts me 2 minutes after the game ends. How did the Buccaneers lose that game? How did they lose it? He's texting me. So people in the league are so stunned by what happened in Tampa Bay when they had the chance to take control. And then you go to Sunday, and the Panthers have the opportunity to, control their own destiny. I don't know if they would have had a hat and T-shirt, but they certainly have gotten themselves close. Yeah. And they play with their food to the point where they lose to Tyler Shook and the Saints.
The Saints, the same thing happens.
Division.
I love the scout. It's like, you're the scout, man. Yeah. How am I supposed to tell you that? You're the scout.
You get paid for this.
Right. And I try to do analysis here, and I was like, dude, I don't know. There was like a fumble, and like 5 Buccaneers jumped on it. And yet at the bottom of the pile, a Falcons player, I didn't.
Baker Mayfield transported his mind back to Cleveland on a couple of throws. Like, just bad football in bad spots.
Bad football, bad coaching, some bad quarterback play, some bad coaching, some bad luck. Your scout friend might have been a couple drinks in like I was. That could explain a little bit of the confusion. I'm trying to figure out what a tie would do because I'm seeing that the Falcons are eliminated, but they're eliminated because can't they go 8-9 while both the Buccaneers and Panthers could tie again and finish 7-8-2. That's possible.
Oh man!
And it seems like that would mean the Falcons would have to win the division. Yeah, I think. Anyway, now I'm rooting for that. Like I've never rooted for anything else in my life. But
I mean, 2 ties.
I'll be watching that game. We got a guy who comes to the bar now. He's a Buccaneers fan who hates everything about the Buccaneers. He's like the Eagles fan translated to Buccaneers. He'll be there cursing. I'll probably needling him to see what happens. But like, yeah, that's my circlet because like I don't like joy. I like chaos and recrimination and pity, and that's what that game's about.
What's coming up on the Tuesday zone?
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. What's coming up on the Tuesday zone? We're doing mailbag. The first mailbag, I'm talking about how Seahawks fans have become the new Eagles fans. A lot of questions about Darnolding, pumpkining, whatever you want to call Sam Darnold does, and how the Seahawks barely beat a 44-year-old. And like that negativity for this team that is 11-3 right now is kind of amusing, but like I see where it's coming from. We're going to be talking about that. Hall of Fame debates coming up. People are dancing on the graves of the Chiefs. All kinds of questions like that. There's probably going to be 2 or 3 mailbags. What do you got coming up?
George McKelvey checks in. Just imagine either the Panthers or Buccaneers could get a home playoff game.
Mm-hmm. They will. One of them will.
I know. And
all the reseeding fans.
You could be looking at an 11-win Bears team not getting in. You could be looking at the Lions not getting in. And one of these weak-ass, soft teams with no killer instinct, mediocrity personified, they're going to host a playoff game.
Yeah, that's true. I don't want to hear about reseeding, though. I mean, if you want thing to say, well, best record, I can see that. But if you start saying, well, it should be best record no matter what, nobody gets an automatic bid. Dan Campbell doesn't want to get in the playoffs on that.
No.
He doesn't want to get in the playoffs on that. Play it as it lies right here. But yeah, we could be you're looking live from Charlotte as these 9-point underdogs, 9-point dog Carolina Panthers face the Detroit Lions. They can't be number one. It would be like the Seahawks. It could be the Rams. The Rams get a couple of losses. They trip over themselves, lose the division, and the Rams go into Carolina where they lost in week 12. So there
Well,
you have
Matthew
it, folks.
Stafford did some very stupid things, but yes,
Right?
I'm rooting for the two ties. Over at Between the Hash Marks right now, we got the feature where I spoke to a handful of MVP voters to get their thoughts
Yep.
on the MVP race, how they come to their decisions on their vote every year, their philosophies. Check that out. Think you really enjoyed it. Proud of how it turned out. Mailbag on Friday. You pose your questions to me. I'll pose them to scouts, agents, executives, coaches. Find out how people inside the league view the top storylines facing the league. And next week's podcast should be a lot of fun. Sometime
Yeah.
on Tuesday, we're going to have a special guest once again.
No.
That'll be kind of cool before Santa Claus takes flight a couple of days later. And make sure you follow Mike Tanier on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. Subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. It's mandatory reading, especially walkthrough and all of the features and all of the deep dives. Can't wait to read the Hall of Fame piece. That really sparked a lot of conversation when we were in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. And big announcement. If you've been on the fence about subscribing to either the Two Deep Zone or Between the Hash Marks on Substack, this is a great time because we're going to be in Mobile. We're going to be at the Senior Bowl. We're going to be covering it, the practices, interviewing the prospects afterwards. We're going to do a live pod or two while we're down there. A great time to support independent NFL journalism, whether you're a fan of the Two Deep Zone, Between the Hash Marks, or both. Come on in, subscribe. It really helps make trips like Mobile and eventually, potentially, Indianapolis for the Combine possible. And we appreciate the continued support and any additional support this time of year more than ever.
Absolutely. And particularly this time of year. And thanks throughout the year as we get into December for all your support coming into this. Again, it makes everything we do possible. I mean, it feeds our families. Let's be blunt. And we've reached the point where, yes, we can take some of these trips, and that's because of the support of viewers, readers, listeners like you.
Truly appreciate all of it, Mike. This has been a lot of fun as always. Thanks everybody who's checking in. We have over 50 people in the room on the live pod. Really enjoy these live podcasts every single week. Thanks everybody who subscribes to the Two Deep Zone, to Between the Hash Marks. Subscribe on the Apple Podcast Store, the Between the Hash Marks podcast. Check out the YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. Great games coming up this weekend. Hope everybody enjoys them. Mike, can't wait to talk to you next week. And make sure your house isn't flooded.
I'm looking. There's no water coming through the door here, so I think we're good. Unless my dog pees.